What's up? What's up, Caribbean? Especially my Guyanese crew. Kevin Jawahir here, and if you're watching this, chances are that CSEC has been giving you some trouble. Well, consider that problem solved. We're diving straight into the deep end, pulling out those key concepts and making sure you not just understand, but you're mastering what you need for the CSEC exam. So, no more guessing, no more stressing. Let's get to it. So, what we'll be looking at today, I've decided to look at the topic trigonometry. And the reason for doing this topic, um, students have approached me after I finished teaching the concept, and it's a topic where students find it a bit challenging, and some of them approached me and was like, "Sir, can you record what you're teaching, so that maybe we can just go home and look back at the video, so that it can reinforce into them." So, and that's okay. I decided to do this because of my students. My love for teaching has always been there, and it's going to continue to be there. And the topic that we're going to do today is trigonometry, as you can see clearly on the board. Now, trigonometry, very big word. Students, when they see the word, they'll be like, "Sir, oh Lord, what we doing right now?" All right, but nevertheless, trigonometry, it seems very long. It's a drawn out word, but what does it mean basically? Trigonometry simply means the study of triangles, right? There are different types of triangles, of course, we know, right? And it also means, another way to put it is that it means the measurement of triangles. We can measure the length of a side on a triangle, or we can measure the size of an angle. All right. But before we do all of those things, what students really need to understand is to understand how to name the sides of a triangle. And in this case, we'll be looking at naming the sides of right angle triangles. Because for the first couple concept that we're going to teach, it includes the right angle triangle. So let's see the properties of a right angle triangle. We know it must be 90 degrees here. Of course, a triangle has three sides given, and those three sides, there are names for them. So what we'll do is that we're going to name them and make you understand how to name them, how to label them rather. All right. So if you look clearly here, let's say that we have an angle here, and we know we use theta to represent angles, represent degree on a triangle. And let me just write this back for you here. Right. So let's say we have theta, and theta here, that's theta. What we need now to understand is we need to label the size of the triangle. So let's start by labeling. Now, the three sides are basically the adjacent, the hypotenuse, and the opposite. And in this case, we can see the hypotenuse is there clearly without doing any analysis here. And how do we find the hypotenuse? It is usually the longest side of the right angle triangle. Now, the longest side here, it is visible here, which is this side, right? If you look, let me draw an arrow to show you. So this side is called the hypotenuse. Now, how did we get that? The hypotenuse is there because it's the longest side. And not only that, how else can we find it? We can find the hypotenuse by simply drawing an arrow directly opposite the right angle, and we will have the hypotenuse. So that's one way to find it. Or, like I said earlier, it is usually the longest side of the triangle. So that's the hypotenuse. So what I'll do is I'll take this arrow out. And another way, let me show you another way in which you can find a hypotenuse as well, is if we're to take, let me use a highlighter here for you guys to see. Use a nice color, right? Remember, this session is for you to understand. Let's say that I decided to draw a line here, straight down. Now notice, think of that as a pencil, all right? I'm taking that pencil and I'm putting it directly on the right angle. Now, notice it is not touching one of the lines, And that one line that is not touching is this line, right? And that line would be the hypotenuse. So if for some reason you cannot, comprehend that, if you draw the arrow to find the hypotenuse, take a pencil or take your finger, place it over the rectangle, and if whatever line is not touching, that will simply be the hypotenuse. All right. So I hope that made sense there, to label the hypotenuse. Now we need to label the opposite side. The opposite side can be found by simply looking where theta is, and if you notice, theta is right here. Yes, you draw an arrow. So if you to draw an arrow from theta coming outwards, where is it pointing to? Notice it's pointing to this line here, and this line we will call that the opposite. So we have the hypotenuse, we have the opposite, so we know how to label that. The other side would be the adjacent. Now the adjacent is, what does adjacent mean? It simply means near to, next to, right? So there we have the three sides. So that is how you label or you name the sides on a right angle triangle. And it's important to label. Reason being is that if we don't know to label triangles properly, we cannot go on to the rest of the concepts, such as Pythagoras theorem and trigonometrical ratios. All right, so I'll do another example here, and I'll draw my triangle from scratch. So let's say I have a line here. I'm going to draw it a bit different, right? Let's say I have a line here and here. Right, so here we have a right angle triangle. Let me put in the right angle here for you. There we have the right angle. And let's say that maybe theta is here. So we have theta there. Now let's label. First of all, let's label the right angle triangle. Use a different color here for the purpose of, making it lively. All right. So let's say I draw a line here, an arrow coming out from the right angle. It means that this side, we're going to continue here. We're going to label this triangle now, right? So to label this triangle, use a different color. We can label the hypotenuse right now. So to label the hypotenuse, what we need to understand is we need to recognize the longest side. And right now, the longest side can be seen right here. Now, if for some reason you cannot identify the longest side, the hypotenuse is usually opposite the right angle. So we're going to label this as the hypotenuse. And if that's the hypotenuse, let me erase the arrow. To label the other sides now, what we need to know is if theta is here, directly opposite theta, we call that the opposite. And the other side, if you look clearly, the other side that is not labeled is right next to the right angle. This is the right angle here, and right next to it, we call this the adjacent. So there you have it. We know how to label right angle triangles, and like I said, it is very important that we understand how to label right angle triangles. And that has brought us to the end of this session. And this session was basically for you to understand how to label right angle triangles so that we can move on to the other topic, which is Pythagoras theorem, followed by the trigonometrical ratios. So that is the end of this session here. I hope it was fruitful. I hope it was beneficial. And remember, we are making math fun, and we are making sure you are ready for CSEC math coming soon. All right, you want to make sure you understand the concepts, and we will have this grade 1 for mathematics. So see you guys until next time. Remember, math is fun.